Your words shape your world because everything you consistently say programs your mind to believe, behave, and build in alignment with those words. The truth is, we don't experience life as it is. We experience life as we speak it. The language you use is a mirror reflecting your inner world, and it's also a mold shaping your outer world. When you say things like, "I'm not good enough," "I can't do this," or "nothing ever works for me." When you say things like, "I'm not good enough," "I can't do this," or "nothing ever works for me," you're not just expressing frustration, you're writing the script your subconscious mind follows. The mind doesn't interpret jokes or sarcasm, it obeys repetition. Whatever you say the most becomes the most real to you. That's why confident people often seem lucky. It's not luck, it's linguistic leadership. They command their words before their circumstances can command them. Every great transformation starts with language. Before a builder constructs a building, he has blueprints. Before an athlete wins, she speaks victory into existence. Long before the scoreboard confirms it, your words are the blueprints of your reality. You may not be able to control every event in your life, but you can absolutely control the narrative you attach to those events. When something goes wrong and you say, "This is the end," your brain shuts down possibility. But when you say, "This is the lesson before the breakthrough," your brain begins to look for opportunities instead of obstacles. What you call a thing determines how you interact with it. Words frame your focus, and focus fuels your future. The world responds to the frequency of your language. Speak limitation long enough and your energy lowers to match it. Speak confidence and your energy rises. People often think success starts with strategy, but it starts with self-talk. Your words are not just descriptions, they are directions. Every time you speak, you're giving your life an order to follow. You're saying, "Go here, do this, create that." And the more emotion you attach to those words, the faster your mind moves to fulfill them. That's why frustration spoken with passion brings chaos faster than calm words spoken with clarity bring peace. You are the architect of your atmosphere. Your tongue is your tool. Think about how you start your day. If the first thing you say is, "I'm tired," you've already told your body how to feel. You've declared your energy level before giving your mind a chance to perform. But if you start your day saying, "I'm ready, I'm focused, I'm grateful," your body starts to follow the command. It's not magic, it's mental alignment. The brain works like a loyal assistant. It listens carefully and acts quickly on whatever you tell it most often. So if you say, "I never have enough time," your brain will start to filter your world in a way that confirms it. But if you say, "I always make time for what matters," your mind begins to notice openings, opportunities, and efficiencies that were invisible before. Your words are not random, they are rituals. Every phrase you repeat builds a pattern. And patterns become your personality, your performance, your power. The reason some people keep repeating the same struggles is because they keep repeating the same sentences. They say, "That's just how I am," or I'll never get there. And life obediently gives them what they've confessed. But if you start saying, "I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm becoming," your life has no choice but to evolve with those declarations. The key is to speak it until your belief catches up with your words. Because confidence doesn't come before speech, it grows through speech. Imagine a sculptor shaping a statue. Every word you speak is a chisel stroke on the sculpture of your life. Some people carve carelessly, they speak negativity, complaint, and doubt, and then wonder why their results look unfinished and rough. Others carve intentionally, speaking vision, gratitude, and strength. And over time, their life begins to take the shape of something powerful and refined. The beauty of this principle is that you don't need anyone's permission to start shaping. You can begin right now by changing the way you talk to yourself about yourself. You can't build a masterpiece out of words like maybe, someday, and if only. You build it with "I will," "I am," I am, and I can. The gap between who you are and who you want to be is often filled with the words you haven't spoken yet. You might have the skills, the talent, even the opportunity. But if your language doesn't match your potential stays locked. That's why the most powerful habit you can form is speaking as the person you are becoming, not the one you've been. Every time you speak from a higher level of identity, you train your mind to operate from that level. Say, I'm disciplined, and your actions will start aligning with discipline. Say, I'm confident, and you'll begin standing taller, thinking clearer, acting bolder. Your words pull your behavior upward. This is not about pretending or faking it. It's about practicing truth until it becomes your default language. If you say something long enough, your brain starts building evidence to prove it. That's why it's so important to guard your mouth, because your mouth feeds your mind, and your mind fuels your motion. Speak vision until it feels familiar. Speak purpose until it sounds like home. Speak progress until your actions echo your affirmations. The shift begins in your speech long before it shows up in your surroundings. When you master your words, you master your world. Speak what you want, not what you fear, because your words act as the steering wheel of your life. Wherever your speech points, your focus and energy follow. Most people don't realize that every sentence they speak is a seed being planted in the soil of their future. If you constantly talk about what you're afraid of, what might go wrong, or how things could fall apart, you're watering weeds instead of planting fruit. Fear-based speech attracts fear-based result. When you say, I don't want to fail, your mind hears fail and begins building a reality around that word. But when you say, I'm committed to succeeding, your subconscious starts organizing thoughts, emotions, and actions to make that outcome possible. Words don't just describe reality, they design it. Most people live their lives reacting instead of creating because their vocabulary is dominated by fear. They talk about what they don't want to happen, what they can't afford, what they're tired of, and what they're scared of losing. That kind of language locks the mind in a defensive posture. It keeps you surviving instead of thriving. But when you start speaking what you want, you put yourself back in control. You stop playing not to lose and start playing to win. Speaking what you want shifts your emotional state from anxiety to authority. It transforms you from a victim of circumstance to a designer of destiny. The difference between people who move forward and those who stay stuck isn't talent or luck. It's the language they use daily. Think about it. When a person constantly says, I'm so stressed, they reinforce tension in their body. When someone says, I can't catch a break, their mind stops noticing opportunities because it's been instructed to look for evidence of struggle. But when you speak powerfully, saying things like, I'm finding a way, or I always attract good outcomes, your brain starts scanning the environment for proof of those declarations. The human mind is like a heat-seeking missile. It moves toward the dominant words you speak. That's why speaking your desires instead of your fears isn't wishful thinking. It's intentional conditioning. Fearful speech is when you talk about what you're afraid of, people around you start echoing the same energy. But confident speech is contagious too. When you boldly declare what you want, you give others permission to do the same. Your language not only shifts your internal environment, but also the atmosphere around you. It draws in people, ideas, and opportunities that align with the energy you emit. Every great movement began with someone speaking possibility when everyone else was speaking doubt. The difference between a complainer and a creator is not circumstance, it's conversation. You have to realize that fear disguises itself as logic. It sounds reasonable when it says, be careful, don't get your hopes up, or what if it doesn't work? But the moment you start entertaining those words, you invite hesitation into your actions. Hesitation kills momentum. And once momentum dies, progress slows and belief fades. The antidote is to speak decisively, even when you don't have all the evidence yet. Speak what you want as if it's already in motion. When you say, I'm building something amazing, I'm attracting opportunities, or I'm growing stronger every day, you're giving your subconscious mind new instructions. You're reprogramming your internal dialogue from fear-based protection to growth-based direction. The problem with fear-based speaking is that it keeps you stuck in a loop of repetition. You keep reliving what you're trying to avoid. If you keep saying, I don't want to be broke, your mind continues to focus on lack, and you find yourself repeating the same financial situations. If you keep saying, I don't want to be alone, your mind keeps emphasizing loneliness instead of connection. The brain doesn't understand negation, it only understands focus. Whatever you focus on expands. So, when you speak fear, you multiply fear. When you speak what you want, you magnify your vision. It's not about ignoring challenges, it's about choosing not to give them your voice. Speaking what you want requires discipline because fear will always try to hijack your mouth. It will try to make you complain instead of declare, react instead of create, worry instead of work. The secret is to pause before you speak and ask yourself, am I describing my fear or declaring my future? That single question can change the direction of your life. Because when you start speaking with intention, your energy shifts, your posture changes, and your mind begins to attract resources aligned with what you say. People call it coincidence, but it's really alignment, the world rearranging itself to meet the vibration of your words. Think about professional athletes before a big game. They don't say, I hope I don't mess up. They say, I'm ready. I trained for this. I'm about to win. That isn't arrogance. That isn't arrogance. It's focus. They're using language to direct their emotions toward victory instead of fear. The same principle applies to your life. If you keep speaking defeat, you prepare yourself to lose. If you speak victory, you prepare yourself to win. The energy you bring to your speech determines the reality you step into. You cannot rise above the level of your language. Even in moments of doubt or uncertainty, speak what you desire, not what you dread. Say, I'm finding clarity instead of I'm confused. Say, I'm growing through this instead of I can't handle this. Say, things are shifting in my favor instead of nothing ever works for me. Over time, your mind starts believing what you say, and your actions begin to align with that belief. You start taking bold steps, seeing new angles, and feeling more confident. Not because the world changed, because your words change your world. The power isn't in avoiding fear, it's in overriding fear with focus. When you speak what you want, you become a magnet for it. You begin to act, think, and attract from a place of confidence rather than caution. People feel that energy. Opportunities sense that frequency. Life responds to that certainty. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about affirming that progress is happening. The language of fear says, what if it fails? The language of faith says, what if it works? Every major breakthrough begins when you stop rehearsing what you're afraid of and start declaring what you're reaching for. Consistency in speech creates transformation because repetition builds belief, and belief shapes behavior. You can say powerful things once and feel motivated for a moment, but the real shift happens when you repeat those words daily until they become part of your identity. The mind doesn't change through information, it changes through repetition. What you say repeatedly becomes what you expect, and what you expect becomes what you experience. The reason many people never see transformation is not because they lack potential, but because they lack consistency. They speak power one day and doubt the next. They affirm abundance in the morning and complain about lack at night. That back and forth language creates confusion in the subconscious mind. Consistency brings clarity, and clarity creates direction. When you commit to speaking positive, intentional words for 30 days straight, you're not just saying affirmations, you're reprogramming your mental software. Every word you speak sends a signal to your brain, and the more consistent that signal, the stronger the neural pathway becomes. Think of it like a dirt trail in a field. The first time you walk it, the grass is still thick. But if you walk it every day, soon the path becomes clear and easy to travel. That's what happens when you speak the same empowering words again and again. You're creating a mental highway for your thoughts to follow. Eventually, the words you speak don't just sound true, they feel true. That's when transformation begins. Consistency in speech is like compound interest for the mind. One affirmation might not change your life today, but repeated affirmations create an inner environment that naturally attracts change. Each time you speak something empowering, you're making a deposit into your mental account. Over time, those deposits grow into confidence, clarity, and conviction. Transformation is rarely a single dramatic moment. It's the result of small, consistent declarations, building unstoppable momentum. The person who commits to speaking power daily will always outperform the person who only speaks it when things feel good. Because consistency creates credibility, and credibility creates trust within yourself. When you keep your words aligned every day, your subconscious learns to trust your voice. Consistency also strengthens identity. Every time you say, "I'm disciplined, I'm focused, or I'm improving," you're not just describing yourself, you're defining yourself. The mind loves patterns, and it will always act to stay consistent with what it believes to be true. So when your words become consistent, your behavior automatically adjusts to match them. You start showing up differently, thinking differently, responding differently. You stop second-guessing yourself because your language has already established your standard. People who struggle with confidence aren't always lacking ability, they're lacking verbal consistency. They keep changing their message to fit their mood instead of staying loyal to their vision. There's power in saying the same thing until you see it. Most people quit speaking power because they don't see immediate evidence. But just like seeds planted in the ground, your words grow in silence before they grow in sight. Every day you speak positivity, gratitude, and progress, you're watering your future. You may not see the results right away, but under the surface, things are shifting. The most powerful transformations are slow and steady because consistency doesn't just change your results, it changes your roots. It rewires how you think, how you talk, and how you react. That's why consistent speech creates sustainable change, while emotional bursts of motivation fade quickly. Think about the difference between saying "I'm confident" once versus saying it every morning for a month. The first time it feels awkward. The 10th time it feels possible. The 30th time it feels natural. That's how transformation works, not through inspiration, but through repetition. You talk yourself into alignment long enough that your emotions, actions, and energy begin to match your words. The world responds differently to someone who has spoken strength into themselves for weeks straight. Their presence carries conviction. Their words carry weight. They're not trying to sound confident. They've built confidence through consistency. Consistency also eliminates confusion. When your words constantly shift between power and doubt, your mind doesn't know which direction to go. But when you speak the same empowering language daily, your focus becomes sharp. You stop entertaining conflicting thoughts. You stop feeding negative narratives. Your internal dialogue becomes unified, and that unity produces strength. Consistent speech simplifies your mental environment. It removes the noise and keeps you aligned with your goals. You stop reacting emotionally to temporary circumstances because your words have already set a long-term direction.